All right, guys. Joe McDonough here with MyMMAnews.com, talking to Tony Gravely, who competes at UFC Vegas 14 on November 14th. Tony, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing great, sir. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Can't complain. Just to start off, it must feel good to be back in the cage. I mean, you last fought January of this year. I'm assuming that when you were in the cage for that against Brett Johns, the thought wasn't that you would be now 11 months later not fighting. I'm sure that you wanted to get back in the cage pretty quickly, but obviously coronavirus screwed everything for 2020. But here you are to end the year back in the cage. It's got to feel good.
Yeah, I'm definitely super excited to get back. I had no clue, like you said, that it was going to be this much of a layoff. This is the longest I've been without having to fight. I've usually been pretty active, and this is the longest that I've been without having to fight. So I'm just excited to step back in there. Excited for the opportunity to do something that I love doing again, and just ready to get back to work.
Absolutely. And last time we had spoke, you have been pretty busy during 2020. You moved to Florida and joined the ranks of American Top Team, one of the best gyms in the world, down in Coconut Creek. How is that? How is the move to Florida for you and your wife? Are you enjoying Florida? I've been down in Florida. I know it's humid as hell, so how has it been, not even as a fighter, but as a person just going through a move?
It's been great. This is the first time I've ever lived outside of Virginia, other than when I wrestled in college in North Carolina. So it's completely different for me. I'm used to living in small towns, and in Florida, where we live, is not a small town. It's not huge, but it's also a lot more people than what I'm used to. So just the way of living, the amount of people, the traffic. I can't complain too bad because most places I end up going is the gym anyway, and the route that I take, I don't have to get on I-95, but it's still a lot more cars than I'm used to. So it's just different. I mean, it's definitely something that takes some time to get used to, but it's not, I guess, a complete culture shock. I've done a lot of traveling, been a lot of places, so it's not like it's the first time I've ever been in a bigger area. But it's different. But we're getting accustomed to it, and starting to get in a groove.
Absolutely, man. And I live over in Boston, Massachusetts. So traffic is something that I hate. So if I 100% agree that if you could be anywhere that traffic isn't, I'm there. But tell me about American Top Team. I mean, joining one of going from kind of a smaller gym that you kind of started at in Virginia to American Top Team with UFC champions and some of the best coaches in the world. How has that been? How has that transition been?
It's been really cool. It's from a small gym. There's usually a lot less people, obviously. The more people you get at a gym, the more feels you get, the more you can learn, the more diversity you get in, whether doesn't matter if it's striking or grappling. If you got more people, more fighters, more professional fighters, you're more likely to get more looks. And American Top Team, they not only have more fighters, but they have a lot of really good fighters. Everybody is really good. So there's so much to learn from every single fighter. And in my weight class where I'm at, the lighter weights, the one between 125 and 135, there's a ton of people my size to work with. So there's probably right now that I'm working with, I've probably worked with 15, maybe 20 different people, just because there's so many. And I'm used to working with, back at our old gym, maybe 4 people, so it's completely different when there's, when the future comes and there's different opponents, different types of opponents to, that I'm going to be fighting. There's going to be somebody in the gym that can give me that can almost replicate that feel for me, no matter what the style is.
Yeah, man, and you've got a ton of people at your disposal. Who has been, and maybe there's more than one name that you can drop. But who has been, I've seen on Instagram stories, yours and others. I've seen you with Randy Costa, I've seen you with Marlon Moraes. Who was the biggest influence, whether it be a fighter or a coach, to you at American Top Team, thus far in your journey there?
It's kind of hard to have like one that's the most, because I work with so many and they're all extremely helpful,
Mhm.
But I think the coolest thing is you go from, like, as a fighter, of course, you know everybody, well, not everybody, but most people that are like a big name, and you're aware of them, especially somebody in your weight class. So, like, some fighters that have definitely helped me, that I've gotten to train with, that I've somewhat admired from afar, would be like Kyoji Horiguchi, Marlon Moraes, Pedro Munoz. Those are some guys that of course, I've known them before I got down here. I knew who they were, and those are guys that I worked with a good amount, and they not only they make sure to work with you and be a good partner, but they also afterwards they do a good job of explaining to you what you can do better, different things that works for them. There could be a position that I got in that I did really good, and they'll say, oh, you did really good with this, if you do this, it'll be better. So just picking their brains and learning from all these different fighters. But another fighter that's been helping me a lot um, lately is Alessandro Pantoja. He's been helping me a couple spar rounds lately, and he's also a really good, really tough fighter. Really good. He's got a good cardio, and he's a super tough guy. Um, but there's a lot. I could name them all day, all these different people, but it's a ton. There's also a lot of really good guys that are up and coming that people may not really know yet, that also are doing a really good job in helping me out. So everybody, it's a huge list of people that that are doing a great job at bettering each other, and it's a really cool atmosphere to see all these people and to know no matter what, when you step on the mat, doesn't matter who you end up going with, it's going to be a beneficial round. There's no easy rounds at American Top Team. Everybody's tough, everybody's working hard, and everybody wants to be the best. So everybody's really competitive, and it's always a good round, no matter who you go with.
Yeah, man, that's special. And like you kind of already stated, you went from having, four training partners at your old gym to now having, like you said, you could sit here and name them for 10 minutes straight. But to have guys that, if you have a striker coming up, you have five strikers lined up that you can spar with. You have six grapplers. You have, a wrestler, a guy that's really good in the clinch. I mean, that's special for being at your level, and to have guys that can help you improve in so many different spots, to the point where you may have an opponent that is really good at this, and you've got four guys that are just as good or better than him, and you can prepare for that for weeks before. I mean, that's got to be something that's maybe really cool to you at American Top Team.
Yeah, that's something that you can't speak like highly enough of having that. I came from a gym where I loved my old gym. We just didn't have the the bodies. Well, I hate to say bodies, not the bodies, but didn't have all the different things to work with as far as having different looks. People would try to replicate looks, but if somebody's not you can only do so much when someone isn't naturally that type of person. You can only mimic but so much and give but so much. But when you come, at American Top Team, there are people that's naturally what they do. They're naturally good at these things. They've had a lot of success at these specific things. So, when you get to go live rounds with people who that's their style, it's very close to replicating how a fight would be with somebody of that style or that stance or the length or whatever it is, strength, speed, however, whatever the advantage may be.
And what are you preparing for most, you and your team, for this November 14th fight? What stylistically are you preparing for most?
For the most part, I think this guy, he's mostly, I'd say he's mostly mostly a grappler, but he's also a striker. So he's pretty well rounded. But I think the only thing to really that we've really been preparing for, that I've been thinking of preparing for, is the fact that he's just a little bit longer than me, which is most people I fight are longer than me, but he's longer than I am, and just been practicing, staying in good position, pushing the pace. I know that I have really good cardio, and I've always fought very aggressively. I'm a forward fighter, whether it's striking or grappling. I'm always pushing the pace. So that's something that I don't plan on ever changing. I always want to be the person that's pushing the pace and making action, creating action. So that's what I've been working on, just outworking my opponent. That's the biggest thing that I can think of, is to outwork my opponent while also advancing in all the little technical areas that I can. I'm not a very fancy fighter, don't do a lot of special stuff, but everything that I do, I try to stay as technically sound as I can. And as long as I stay technically sound and keep pushing the pace, people make when you get tired, you make mistakes. And if you stay technically sound or in a really good shape, it's easier to capitalize on someone's mistakes when they get tired, especially when they get tired.
Absolutely. And that's something, since I've watched you in your CES days, that you've always done, is outwork your opponents and push the pace with them, make them tire out. And, when we spoke in the past, before the Brett Johns fight, we had talked about how the UFC really thought highly of you, as they should, when, giving you an opponent like Brett Johns right off the bat. Obviously a losing effort, but a great effort, and a fun fight to watch. What did you learn, looking back? Have you watched it back a couple times, and what have you learned most from the Brett Johns fight?
I've watched it a couple of times, and I've learned that that fight was really close, and it was one of those things where I feel like had I done this one or two little things, could have changed the whole way of the fight. But that's anybody can look back and say that. But I think that anything, it comes from staying disciplined in certain situations, knowing that if I'm winning, even though for example, even though I'm mostly a grappler, if I'm doing a lot better on the feet, then keep it on the feet. And those are things that, unless you get that live experience, it's kind of hard to do in a live situation, like in a real fight. So things like that. So it's good at American Top Team. I get these different feels, and if for some reason I'm going with someone and I am struggling a little more with the grappling than I expected, learning how to flip that switch, to be disciplined, to strike, either continue striking or to strike until I get myself in a position where I can get an advantage with my grappling. So things like that, just minor things. It's not even anything huge that made a difference in that fight. It's something minor, but these little things can make a big difference. And one thing with all the coaches at American Top Team is working on the little things, because those little things are probably the most important. So things that people don't see, things that you can't necessarily see, but you can feel. And those are things that we've been working on, just making sure that everything that I do is sound. And that way, the more detailed I am in training, the more detailed I'm going to be when I fight. So it may not look like a huge difference to other people, but I can feel it when I'm out there, and I'm excited to do the things that we've worked on and feel it while I'm out there.
And it's definitely, the little things can absolutely help, as a fighter. Give us a prediction for next week. Do you feel any pressure to not start your career out 0-2? I'm sure obviously you don't want to start your career 0-2, and that's not the plan. Is there any pressure in that? And do you have a prediction for us?
If you look at it and you think about it, coming off a loss, it can be a little pressure, but at the end of the day, each fight that's currently in front of you is the important fight. It doesn't matter what happened in the past, what happened now. The goal is still the same. Mm-hmm. I want to go out there, I want to win, I want to dominate, and I want to be a UFC bantamweight champion. So, you have to take what's happened in the past, whether it's good or bad, and put it behind you. You learn from it, you put it behind you, and it's a new task in front of you. So, I don't think about it too much because either way, I want to go out there. I want to dominate. I don't care what happened last week or last year. I want to go out there and I want to be the best that I can be in that current moment. So, for this fight, I'm looking to looking to push the pace and show how big my heart is. Everybody knows I have a big heart, um, and I want to keep that. I want to push, and I don't want to change anything about the way I approach fights, other than being a little more technically sound when it comes to always pushing forward, always being aggressive, always looking for action. Like that's the way I fight, and that's how I'm always gonna fight. And in this fight, I'm gonna show my heart, I'm gonna show my work ethic, and I'm looking to outwork him, whether it's on the feet, on the ground, doesn't matter. I want to produce a heavy workload, push a pace, and keep a pace that he can't keep, and eventually break him down and finish him.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Tony. Well, as a fan, ever since you told me about the move to American Top Team, I have been so excited to see you back in the cage. The combination of Tony Gravely and American Top Team sounds like a dangerous killing machine. So I am super excited for next week, man. Thank you very much for the time. It's always great to catch up with you, my friend. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much for the support and giving me the platform. It means a lot.
Absolutely.